instead of how you have the weekly temperatures, you know, I mean, what was your radiation count at the corner of Main and Center and across from Atlas Minerals and, you know, like in Arches National Park? I think that'd be fascinating, you know, to know what the background radiation really is.
That's the future of the weather.
Well, that's what I'm trying to see. I'm still trying to scare tourists away, you know.
Good heavens, God forbid you choke or something. You can't.
So no stories on mining disasters, huh?
No stories?
On mining disasters or radioactivity?
Not, well, I've only been here 20 years. You know. And really, by the mid-70s, uranium was kind of on its way out. There was one last little spurt there. And then Atlas Mill shut down about 1984, I think. And there hasn't been any, are you kidding me? There hasn't been any mining to speak of in the last decade. But there are people still waiting for it to come back.
Yeah, there are too. It's like some of those. There's some people out there that just, I mean, literally, it's like they think it's gonna be back, and they're just kind of waiting over the side, you know, yelling at all of the new people that have come in here and what have you, and turn this place into this disaster that they think it is. Which, to a certain extent, I think they're right. Hi, darling.
Are you in the middle of something?
Yeah.
Does Cuisine Express order come here?
What?
Does Cuisine Express Fredericks?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, darling.
Hey, big guy, what's happening?
Everything's.
Just deliver all this stuff here then, huh?
Yep.
All right.
And one of the things about coming here too that it's one of the things that I experience. You know, like most people come here for something, and so you have a little hard time like to fit in because they either come here for the river, or they come here for the rocks, or they come here for what other kind of things do they come?
Money. They come here for the money.
Well, those are the capitalist reasons, but I mean, you know, it just seems like, you know, or the mountain biking and what have you. And like when I first started, you know, coming in and intermingling with fellow residents and what have you, it's like, well, you know, do you mountain bike? No. Do you like the river? No. Do you hike? No. And oh, do you four-wheel? No. Okay. Well, why did you come here? And then, you know, it's kind of pretty here. You know, it's like I thought it'd be a nice place to live, you know, and like it's like they just look at you like, you know, it's really, the reaction was like, and still is to a certain extent, because people like customers and things like that, they want to talk about, you know, hiking trails and this like that, and like I suppose there are some, but I wouldn't know where they are.
Do you know Big O Deerheart?
Oh yeah.
Wasn't that like Garing's wife?
Oh, they go the climber. You know, they go the rock climber.
Oh,
Does all the stunt work for the movies and stuff.
that
With
guy.
the sandy beard.
Yeah, yeah,
That guy.
yeah, sure.
George.
Yeah.
Call him George. He hates that. Oh.
What about him?
I interviewed him. He's a good. He's great. He's really good for one-liners. He's got one-liners. Just
Well, he's one of those.
Yeah. There it is. Okay.
He's
next.
concise. Yeah. Yeah. He can put a whole lot of shit in just one little thing there.
How about
In this town?
There's a bunch of them.
There are a bunch of them.
There's a bunch of them.
Well,
Rusty Muscle.
Rusty Muscle.
I never met Rusty Musselman. I know who he is, though. He's been around here forever. He has the kind of the guest ranch down by Monticello, right there at the top of Peterson. Yeah. I bet he's got great stories.
He's incredible. You should.
That's the guy I want to go down and do an interview with sometime.
Yeah, you've got it, and you better do it now.
Why is he dying?
He's not in really good shape. He could go. He's the kind of person that will go like that because
Mm.
he knows that we're telling him, you know, Rusty, you can't drive a car. You should not drive a car. He had a stroke, you know, and he's out driving a car, and he said, I'm going to keep doing it. And they said, well, Rusty, what's next? He says, I'm gonna die.
Well, that's a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
attitude, I think.
But he's, you know, yeah,
Live
exactly.
until he dies.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And he's, I mean, you gotta interview him.
Yeah.
You've got to. You've got to.
That's something I want to do for a while. But I mean, I admire that. I mean, there's no intermediate stage between living and dying. He's just going to live until he dies. And so many people kind of go into this bizarre limbo stage before they actually give up the ghost. You know?
I think that's what I'm in now.
You've given up?
No,
You're in a limbo.
no, I'm in that bizarre limbo
Oh,
state.
no, you're still living, Mike. You're still active. You're still doing stuff.
I
I'm
see.
talking about those people that just kind of sit there and they don't have any interest and they don't have any reason to be
I'd
alive
watch
anymore. They
I'd
just
watch
continue.
Star
I
Wars
think
all
that's,
day,
I
all
think that's
night.
pretty much
When
me.
I couldn't get around and I just learn all the lines.
What are you talking about now?
Don't ask me.
I don't
You
know.
memorize the lines to Star Wars. Is that what you said?
I want to when I get older.
I mean, you know, I think that, you know, after experiencing him, that you know, I'm gonna get like, you know, no shoes, no shirt, no brain, no service, you know.
Oh, no, don't get all hard a little bit.
That's
Well,
string
so
of
like,
luck.
how old is your boy? 4?
He's 5.
You have this to look forward to in just 6 more years.
Well, his mother's got whatever the hell they call that in court. I got so
Custody.
confused. Yeah, it was like,
What?
yeah, they said something, do you want custody? And I said, no, but do you have any plum pudding, you know? I don't know.
You have any?
Is there a required consent?
I think it was almost a requirement, but he didn't.
You interviewed Lynn Ottinger. He's also very interesting.
Yeah, I've talked a lot to Lynn.
Did you go out and pelt the trails that they bring those tours on with Japanese shark teeth prior to the?
Did Lynn get going on the federal government at all? Yeah.
I've got Lynn, Rusty, Burl, and Tex McClatchy all sitting in the same couch talking about the Parks Department for 8 fucking
Yeah.
hours.
Well, well, I have to say,
6 hours of text.
I was a park ranger during the time when Lynn was having his biggest problems with the Park Service. And I mean, now that I don't work for those bastards anymore, I can say I was a little bit sympathetic to Lynn's cause. I mean, there were these places that Lynn went to on the White Rim that were across naked sandstone, where his vehicle really wasn't hurting anything. There was a little place called Officer's Kitchen. You know, it was this great little place he'd set up for his tours, where you crawled down a ladder into this little grotto that overlooked the river, and the Park Service closed all these little side roads that he used. But the paranoia of the Park Service with Ottinger was just amazing, because we were all on the same radio frequency, Arches and Canyonlands, so I could listen to all the Canyonlands Rangers, and these guys were crazy. They were out hiding behind rocks on the White Rim with the radios, waiting for Ottinger to come along and do something wrong so they could, you know, nail him. And it was not really a big thing, but as I recall, it ended up going to Washington, D.C., and it was a really big deal. You'd think, you know, Ottinger had, you know, murdered somebody. He was so big, but it was silly. Park Service does that sometimes. They get really wrapped up in some little minuscule little thing like that. It almost becomes a battle of personalities.
Well,
Rogers was a personality they really wanted to do.
Don't they have an abundance of those people? Aren't they kind of overstocked in rangers and what have you? I've often wondered what do all those people do? You were one, Jim.
We don't do much of anything.
Yeah, well, that's-
we bust poor tour operators for
Yeah.
riding off the road.
Here's, I guess, a summary
No,
of what I think you do. You sit around and wait for people to pee on rocks and stuff.
What do you mean? We peed on rocks.
Yeah, we were some of the greatest rock peers in the
Well,
entire
but-
mountain.
Actually, I mean, that was back then, that was kind of a rare deal, because not too many of the Rangers were particularly interested in law enforcement. But I think that's changed a lot now. All law enforcement Rangers are supposed to carry a weapon. In fact,
They have to.
they just upgraded from a .357 Magnum to like a 9mm
Double.
semi-automatic. And the irony is, I don't know if it's changed since I was there, but in the time I was at Arches, and from the beginning of the time the park was created, there'd never been a felony arrest, ever. And yet we were all supposed to carry these big guns on 3-inch belts with our flexi cuffs, and our mace, and our PR-24 combat batons. I mean, it was.
But isn't that directly related to penis performance?
Well, this I didn't hear.
Yeah.
I did not know this.
They just wanted, they just wanted you to be able to perform if
I didn't know.
need be. Like, you know, if somebody was stranded someplace and the only way you could get them out was to entice them with sex, and what have you.
Well, now you tell me.
There's something about undoing one of those big belt things and hearing all that lead and stuff drop to the ground.
You know what? Actually, I was really skinny 10 years ago when I was a ranger, and I had this massive
good to
gun
see you
belt on
bulked
my
up,
little
buddy.
29-inch waist, you know. And we had to go qualify on the range a lot. And there was this one maneuver where you fired from the 50-yard line, and then you ran to the 25-yard line, reloaded, and then fired again. And Mike, as I was running from the 50 to the 25, my gun belt slid down around my ankles, and so I was like running, you know, to the next
Yeah.
point, and I finally had to go, help!
It's kind of the same sensation when you realize you're out of toilet paper.
Yeah, it's the same kind of, it's the same move
That
exactly.
shuttle move.
Yeah. Not a good move.
So, is that
Mao Zedong?
Yeah.
Or Ho Chi Minh?
Ho Chi.
wow, that's beautiful.
We called him Ho.
A hoe, yeah, how to be a hoe.
Why is that? You don't ever call him Mr. Min. Or it wasn't like Mr. Tongue. It's always Mao or Ho.
Hey
I
ho.
never understood that.
I probably wouldn't be the one to ask.
But you have the shirt. Why is that?
I did a piece on Vietnam at one time, and
Oh, really?
one of the guy he took photographs of Vietnam, tons of them. He was a really, you know, an incredibly, and he was an artist. As a photographer, he went to Vietnam, took a ton of photographs, just amazing photographs, and never picked up the camera again when he came back. And I did this long piece of his photographs. That was like
So would you buy his camera and that shirt?
He
Hey, are you using that shit, buddy?
He went to Nam, and when he was in Nam, when he went back, he sent me this while he was there. And so it's kind of sort of a nice
Yeah,
feeling
it's
to
not
it.
true. Get off me.
Is it a mix?
I like those.
Mixed blend?
Just leave me alone. Okay,
What?
just sit
The
there and
shirt.
shut up.
Sure. I think it's kind
I can't.
Yeah, nap time. Go to sleep.
No, I was just wondering if you'd leave me by a fireplace or something like that.
yeah, well, you gotta be careful when you wear this in front of.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that.
Yes, you do.
Did you wear that for Ray and Jimmy?
No, but I thought about it. I did. I thought about it. I wore it for Tex McClatchy one time to see what happened. The guy that works for him in that yard was like
Oh.
looking at me like he's
Yeah,
gonna
well,
kill me.
Tex.
But
Tex.
Tex.
Yeah, but later. See, Tex is convinced I was a communist way back when. Maybe still, I don't know.
Can't sleep with us at fire.
Do you know Millie?
Wasn't that, were you talking to like Barbara Bush's dog?
No, Millie, you know, Wired Millie.
Which? You know,
I don't want to get into this.
what, no, which one?
No, Tex's wife Millie.
Oh!
No,
Yeah, well, they're
no.
both, no, I met Tex a couple times, but maybe she was there, yeah, they were flying somewhere, because one time I met him, but I really didn't get to chat with him, and besides that, after Tex, it was like, because we were trying to get up to Salt Lake, and it was one of those things where we were filling up the plane with gas and what have you, and Tex was on his way going somewhere, and the guy that I was with knew Tex, and it just started, and I mean, we were trying to leave, and it's kind of like, you know, I was just kind of thinking about maybe just taking that gas hose, just squirting him down and going, we're leaving now. But
Was Tex trying to tell you the history of his life?
it was especially the first encounter, which should you know, that's the one thing that's kind of there's some good points and some bad points about, you know, the chattiness of people here, because it seems like every time you're in a hurry, like you'll bump into somebody, and it was, well, yesterday I went over to a friend's house, and he needed some solder, and he needed a key cut, and I just went over there to drop something off, but, you know, because I'm a good guy, I said, well, let me go do that for you. and like he was really in a hurry, and I was trying to help him, and it ended up, it probably would have been better if he had done it himself, because when I went to this place to get this, and I ran into somebody, and they started to talk, and what have you, and like, as much as I knew that I was in a hurry, I also knew that he was in a hurry, and and like, it just so happened that the people that I ran into were people that I wanted to talk to. I mean, I wasn't like preoccupied with, I got to find this guy and talk to him, but it was just like whatever they said to me was enough to entice me to sit there and babble, and it's so continual that you go into like the supermarket or something like that, and you want to run in and just get some milk or something like that, or some toilet paper or this or that, and like, you're walking down the aisle and it's, oh hey, and you just like, you start talking, and you'll sit there for 15, 20 minutes, and then often on and what have you, and that's, or in the middle of the street, which is one of the rare beauties of, you can actually literally stop dead in the middle of the street, two vehicles facing in opposite directions, sometimes blocking traffic, where people have to go around, and the cops will go around you. Because it's kind of like, these people are talking, and like if you were sitting there, I don't know, maybe doing something else, it would be different, like playing checkers or something. But if you're talking, I think there's some unwritten laws about the right to converse.
It's true.
Yeah, literally, and you can do it. I've done it right downtown Main Street. In the middle of the street, somebody's coming this way and somebody's coming that way, and you go, hey! Like that, and you both just kind of pull into the middle of the road, and you're actually blocking Main Street downtown traffic, and the cops will go around you as well, and what have you, because they're talking.
It's a little more dangerous to go on Main Street because you're not dealing strictly with local traffic. Some of these out of town.
Yeah, but as far as traffic and everything like that, you get honked at and this and that, but as far as the judicial system is concerned, I have never seen anyone like even nudged by an officer.
How do you feel about German tourists?
How do I feel about them?
Have you had good experience? What kind of experiences have you had? I've seen them in bikinis on the white ramp this week.
They don't know how to queue up, I can tell you that. They don't know how to take their place in line. I was a ranger for 10 years, and they would come into the campground and they would say, "We want a place to camp." And I'd say, "Yeah, I'm sorry, the campground's all full." And they would say, "You do not understand. We are German." Like, oh, well, geez, let me go some Americans or Jewish folks out and give you all a spot right away. Sorry. But no, most of them are okay, but they are a little bit demanding, and they don't understand the spatial aspects of America. If they come into the campground or into any place, and there's so much room, and they're so used to just utilizing a small space, that they would move into someone else's campsite and just move their stuff down to the end of the table because they couldn't see why this person had all this room and why they couldn't just, share it with them. But
and I've often wondered the same thing.
Yeah. I had this theory for years when I was a ranger that I could talk to Germans in English with a German accent and they wouldn't be able to tell I was doing it. Like they would say, "Is it possible to camp?" And I would say, "It is not possible. It is important that you go to Moab, or I will have to write you a ticket." And then I found out, like just a couple months ago, that they can't. They could tell. I had this friend who was a German. I said, "Can you tell when I'm talking like this that I'm talking differently?" And they went, "Of course. You're trying to act like an asshole German." Oh, God, it's no wonder I got all these complaints when I was at the park.
The tourists are tourists and what have you, and I've noticed that you will weaken, and this is getting back into the transformation one makes when they're here, because like when I first got here and like I bought this business and what have you, I was just excited as all hell, everybody. And like, I would, if we closed, you let them come in and come on and what have you, and then they beat you down. It's just, it's impossible for anyone to build on their fondness for a tourist. It's going to be a regression You have no choice. They're just gonna beat the shit out of you, you know. And it's all the different groups. You know, the Europeans, you know, they have their little things, you know, they're a little pushy and they're a little that, and what have you. And after a while, you know, you just get tired of taking their shit, so to speak, and so you develop a little bit of an attitude. And the mountain bikers, for instance, which are more my life's blood than anything else. After a while, you know, you don't give a shit about their bikes. You know, before I not only let them bring their bikes in and what have you, you know, I Simonize them while they're eating and what have you. You know, can I knock the trail off it for you, buddy, and what have you? But you know, after a while, there's so many of them, and they all have their little, like, the mountain bikers are a little bit more notorious for their cheapness, so to speak. When I first bought this place, I'd owned it about a week, and I was by the register, and somebody came up and said, "There's no toilet paper in the men's room." And I said, "Oh, sure there is." And they said, "There's no toilet paper in the men's room." And I said, "Well, just look under the little cupboard and what have you." And he goes, "There's no toilet paper in the men's room." And I says, I put, like, you know, 24 rolls in there a couple of days ago. And one of the waitresses that had been around here for years, she goes, "Oh, you put 24 rolls of toilet paper in there? You can't do that." You know, what the hell are you talking about? They take it. And it's just like, it's why I use this fine cutlery and silverware and flatware, whatever you want to call it. Boy, that one is a flatware. They take it. You know, they camp and what have you, and they take it. So, like, I mean, there's actually products on the market made out of plastic that are more expensive than this, and what have you. But I didn't think I could get away with this. But anyway, so this is the cheapest thing you can buy that's some form of metal and what have you. And the reason it is because I, like, during the spring and stuff like that, I'll probably lose maybe, you know, 4 or 5 dozen and what have you. And salt and pepper shakers are quite commonly known to be missing in action and what have you. And so, I mean, and it's always the same, you know. It's they're certainly not all like that. And there's some of them, you know, a lot of, probably even the majority of them are just regular fine people and enjoyable and what have you. But you have that certain seedy element in any group of tourists that is just going to carry their form of obnoxia a little bit farther than the rest, and they're going to steal your stuff and maybe not pay their bill and what have you. So they do have a tendency to wear on you after a while.
Yeah, well, I think in any tourist town, ultimately what gets on your nerves is the fact that on any given day, half the population of the town is composed of people that don't live here. And when it gets to be this popular, the town itself is really geared towards catering to and providing services for the people that don't live here. And the people that have lived here all their lives sort of slip through the cracks. You know, everything this town does is directed towards bringing more tourists into Moab. And you see very little actually done for the citizens. So you get that resentment, I think, that develops as a result.
But on the flip side of that, you know, because the people that work here and live here and have businesses here and what have you, they're always so busy and they're always so running around. There's not the social pressures that you have, like, you know, like, what are you doing this weekend? Well, everybody knows what I'm doing this weekend. I'm either going to be drunk and missing from here, and people are going to be calling all around for ours, or I'm actually going to be here working, and so it's like.
Well, lately, it's been more the first than the second.
Well, you know, that's my summer, Jim. You know, we all have our little, things, Mon.
Mike's had quite a summer.
Yeah. You don't have like my memory, and it's starting to fade, thank God, of living in a city and having like a normal job and what have you. You know, somebody's going to say, well, what are you doing this weekend? You know, we thought we'd get together and what have you. And you know, you have these people come over for dinner, and then you have to invite them back and all that other stuff that goes on. Well, that doesn't go on here because like. Everybody's busy. You know, they have businesses and they're all tourist related, and they're out late at night and what have you. So you don't have to go through all that bullshit. So it's eliminated that, which is a good thing. That's because I don't have to go over to his house for dinner and have him over for mine.
Hey, would you want to have them over for dinner? I would.
Would you?
Yeah, we could sit and have a long conversation about fun and foodie.
I'm going to be silly.
I think he already has been. I think what you're looking at is a byproduct.
Product of
A
the-
by, I know it's a byproduct of some form of human life. That
Are you done now? Are you done now?
Do you have anything you want to ask Mike while we've got him sitting down asking questions? We're asking him questions, we've got him trapped.
yeah. You want to talk about chicks or
No, I want to ask you one thing.
what?
Just what? Say anything. What's
You're
on the
gonna
top of your mind? What right now?
What's on the top of my mind?
Yeah.
You know, probably nothing in particular.
Nothing.
Yeah, I just respond, I react. Like a lot of people think about shit, I just react. Yeah, I think everything was just put in there all at once, probably prior to birth or shortly thereafter. And well, most of you struggle with growth patterns and everything like that. All I have to do is react.
So react to this. Or this.
Frail little boy, he's almost skeletal.
I am 56 pounds, 11 and a half.
You bulk up, man. Believe me, fat guys get away with a lot more. And did you talk to Jim about, and I'm just recently a single guy and what have you, but did you talk to Jim about the social aspects of, I think that's kind of.
That sounds like a good
Yeah,
one.
you know, like how are the
I'm
chicks?
talking to the wrong guy. I have no social life and I don't get out.
You
And if I say anything else, then you always go, here we go again.
No. I think, come on, Jim, I think it's
Mike, you're the
important.
social
I think-
butterfly at this table. so
Wait
you
a minute,
talk
wait a
about
minute,
it.
wait a minute. You know, like I was just divorced like a couple of months ago and.
Oh, yeah, that kept you from being a social butterfly.
Yeah, Jim.
No, I'm just saying you're a man that
Jim,
goes
Jim,
to
there's
this-
still things
you go to-
pending in court. I would have, appreciate.
Well,
No,
this'll
I'm
be
talking.
right after.
I'm talking. You're a single guy, and what have you? And what about dating and social interaction? I mean, where do you? If you find somebody you like, and what do you do here? Where do you go on a date?
I don't have any dates. I don't go
You've
anywhere.
had dates, Jim.
No, I don't. I haven't.
What?
I haven't, no.
I know you've had dates. You told me you're going on. You told me you're going on dates. One time you said you were going like to a reading or something.
A what?
I don't know, something. It was like it was a reading.
Oh, there was a brief period of time where I had a girlfriend and she wanted to go to a poetry reading. They do that every once in a while. You
Yeah.
go to a movie and you go out to dinner, go to the Dose.
There.
Okay.
A lot of people go to the Rio, and that's about it.
Yeah, I think it's a major stumbling block for a lot of people in this time, like because see, like there's splinter groups here. You got your environmentalists and what have you. I mean, Jim couldn't go out with like a capitalist or something.
I'd
like
go
that,
with anybody right now.
like somebody that ran a franchise or something. Like could you go out with like Mrs. Arby? Or you couldn't do that, could you? So see, there you're limited. So Jim's got to find a 13 to 14-year-old. That's another. Jim's got age restrictions too that he's got to work around. So
13 to 14?
so he'd have to find a 13 to 14-year-old environmentalist that didn't have a mom that cared. And what have you. And that may be carrying it a little further, but okay, so you got your environmentalists, and then you got your mountain bikers, and then you got your capitalists, and you got this, and this. So there's all these little splinter groups. So normally,
You have amalgamation, you have capitalist mountain bikers.
that's true, but I mean, there's always people crossing lines and what have you. I mean, that's how you get. I can't say that. Anyway.
Yes, you can.
No, I can't. Believe me, I can't. But anyway, there's all these little splinter groups, and then within the confines of these splinter groups, then you have to find somebody suitable to the way you are. And I mean, because like there's environmentalists that of course that are like Jim that I can see anybody liking and what have you, but there's some of those people that like nobody could possibly like. So it even narrows within that little group. So you really don't have an opportunity to have that much exposure to someone to develop a relationship with and what have you. And then even if you do, like find somebody that's compatible and what have you. Like if you live in a city, like, you can go to a movie, you can go to an amusement park. There's plays, there's cultural things, there's museums and what have you. And like what would you do here? I can't imagine like kind of entering into a relationship and what have you, being a single person and then having enough stuff to carry over until you can actually just start having sex all the time.
I guess you just gotta get right to sex.
Yeah. So there you go, Jim. Go get laid, buddy.
No more driving too. Driving looked like.
Do you know that?
Betty Stanton told me about the date she had with Burt Reynolds at the drive-in.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that. You got all kinds of good stuff out of Betty.
Yeah, I did. Do you know Betty?
Oh, yeah.
Jim knows everybody.
Betty and I party together often.
The,
Are you still here?
that drive-in, they still had that sign out there, and it was a couple years ago before they built these theaters and what have you. There was somebody in here eating, and I guess they used to have a walk-in theater there too. And anybody, it said on the marquee up there, it said water damage, and what have you. And I literally had a guy who was paying for his food and stuff like that, and he goes, "So, how's that movie Water Damage?" And I looked at him and I went, "What?" And he goes, "Well," he says, "there's a theater out there, down that road down there," and he says, I drove by and I saw on the marquee, Water Damage. Have you seen it?
It was the prequel to Water World.
Yeah, I said, no, the place isn't open. That's Water Damage,
The guy forgot to drain it was strange how that was the indoor theater. It just ended one day because he forgot to drain the pipes from the swamp coolers, and then they froze, and then they cracked, and then he walked in one morning and the entire ceiling of the movie theater had collapsed. And that was it. It just never opened again. So we went, 4, 5, 6 years without it.
Not me, buddy. I came here in '92.
Yeah, well, the rest of us suffered.
Well,